Come Let Us Dream About Africa was the subject of an email that I sent out in May this year to a group of men and women across Africa who have been friends of MAI for a long time. These are men and women with many, many years of experience in various roles within the publishing enterprise, the publishing adventure within Africa. They are already trustee groups, MAI trustee groups in Europe and Asia, and as a member of the MAI board, I've had the much privilege of witnessing these men and women being used, you cannot hear me, being used by God to make a difference on their continents.
To see your face.
And I cannot wait to see God do the same in Africa. So I asked them whether they would be willing to be part of a group charged with holding in trust the vision and work of MAI in Africa, and whether they would be willing to advance the work of MAI, a group committed to the growth of indigenous Christian publishing on the continent so as to multiply inspiring stories such as the one shared by Jules Wambura this morning. Yeah. Would they be willing to dream together and work together so that one day we would hear multitudes from across the continent give testimonies of how their lives and their societies have been transformed because of a divine encounter catalyzed by their publishing efforts? Would they be willing to come and dream together about Africa and about what role an MAI in Africa would play in enabling us better meet the present and future needs of Christian publishing in Africa through training? This invitation was the culmination of a long journey and the beginning of a new adventure. I first encountered MAI back at the turn of the century when a soft-spoken, unassuming American came to visit my then boss, the late Dr. Jeremiah Okorie, who was a boisterous Nigerian man. All I remember in retrospect was that contrast. But unbeknownst to me, John Most had encouraged Dr. Okorie to send one of his staff to the UK for LittWorld that year. So soon after, Dr. Okorie instructed me to go and look for a UK visa, which I did. He said he was sending me for some training in the UK. I had just taken on new responsibilities as publishing coordinator at IBS Africa. Frankly, I didn't know what to expect, and Dr. Okorie didn't know what to tell me to expect. But what I did experience was life-changing. First, there was great refreshing. Sometimes you're out there toiling in your patch of the garden, and it's hard and you're struggling, but you go on because you want to get things done. And because you want to keep things going and you don't want to give up, you know there's work to be done, you do your part. But it's hard, and you feel alone. Sometimes when you're out there, it feels like you're in a tiny colony of three-eyed people in a country of two-eyed people. And then suddenly, and this is what I felt when I came for LittWorld, and then suddenly you're in this land and you look around and oh my goodness, everybody here has three eyes. That's what it felt like then, and that's what it continues to feel like now. Like finding MAI was a kind of coming home, finding a place of belonging. And I'm sure there are very many people here who understand what I mean. Which leads me to the second thing. There were great friendships to be made at LittWorld. I'm going to insert here something about Robin because she talked about me yesterday. There's also the bargain of getting somebody to come all the way to my home country to wash my laundry. But there were so many men and women who loved God and who understood and had passion for what the Word of God, the written Word of God, could do. And they were willing and eager to share their expertise and experience, and wanted to be of all the help they could be on my publishing journey. So via LittWorld, I began to make forever friends. And these friends and MAI supported me through my publishing journey as I grew in responsibility I grew from publishing coordinator to director of publishing at IBS, and then I became executive director of Africa. And throughout that journey, I turned to them again and again for refreshment, for counsel, for mentorship, for friendship, and they were always there. And that's the one thing that I love about MAI. MAI is like a faithful friend. They find you where you are and they walk alongside you, encouraging you, teaching you, cheering you on, and empowering you. They're here for the long haul. That's what I was reminded of this morning again when I listened to Jules Wambura speaking. I really love the work of MAI and I feel privileged to be a part of it. So back in 2008, I was asked to consider joining the board of MAI International, and I had no hesitation in saying yes. And then in 2009, under the leadership of Barine, we had the privilege of organizing the first ever LittWorld conference in Africa. And it was a wonderful, memorable experience. For weeks after, I remember walking around as though I was high on something. And then when I came back down to earth, I remember noting down two things that I wanted to see happen should we have the privilege of hosting the next LittWorld in Africa. The first thing that I prayed for was that we would be able to bring together an even bigger delegation from Francophone Africa. Yes. Could we do that? Well, one of the best pieces of news I received last week from John was that there were 25 participants in the French pre-conference held at the end of last week. It's such a privilege to have such a strong Francophone African representation and to hear what God is doing there, and to know, just from interacting with the team from Francophone Africa, and to hear the stories of what happened during the pre-conference, that God is doing great things in Africa through you. You are an answer to our prayers. Nous sommes vraiment contents que vous êtes ici. Vraiment contents. The second thing that I prayed for was that by the time we were done with hosting the second LittWorld conference, we would have established an MAI-Africa Trust, a Pan-African group of men and women whose heart would beat alongside MAI and would hold the vision and work of MAI in trust on behalf of the continent. Several people were praying for this. I wasn't the only one. And we were also holding conversations and dreaming and wondering. And then there were some who shall remain unnamed, who were also nudging and telling us to stop talking and start walking. And it took a while, but finally we came around. And so in May 2012, I sent in an invitation to 6 illustrious men and women to come and dream, to come to Nairobi in August to come and dream about MAI in Africa. The response was amazing. I was absolutely amazed. They came, we dreamt, which brings us to today. We're on the cusp of launching the MAI-Africa Trust to advance the MAI vision of equipping, empowering, encouraging publishing practitioners to go out and transform lives and communities through the written word. Now, those of you who have heard me speak about know that every time I'm speaking about publishing, I find a way to insert the words of an incredibly wise young Nigerian woman. Her name is Chimamanda Adichie, and she's given a TED Talk, which I think I've tried to force everybody to watch. So if you haven't watched it, please watch The Danger of a Single Story. And in The Danger of a Single Story, she speaks about the importance of telling stories, telling as many stories of a location as possible. Whether that location is a geographical one, like Africa, or a religious one, like Christianity. She posits that the single story creates stereotypes, not because it's not true, but because it is incomplete. I feel privileged today to be part of something that seeks to multiply to the nth degree the stories that are told at the African-Christian intersection. And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce the wonderful team that has so enthusiastically agreed to join me on this adventure. Barine Karim, would you join me up? Bawine is the founding director of the Publishing Institute of Africa, and as he's been introduced, the chair of the LittWorld Host Committee. Lekan Otufodun, joining me up here. Lekan is a special publications editor of the Nation newspapers in Nigeria. Lawrence Darmani. Lawrence wears very many hats. He's the managing editor of Step Publishers in Ghana, prolific author, and MAI trainer, just honored. Jules Ouaba, Chief Executive, Centre de Publication Évangélique. There are two others who would have loved to be with us this evening, but they have not been able to, they were not able to be here. Nelson Clemens is from Sierra Leone. He's a management consultant. He's a friend of MAI. And he was not able to come for LittWorld, but he's one with us. And Joan Ibudu was here earlier this week and had to travel. He's the Director of Arts Ministry in Burkina Faso.